All right, welcome to Modern Mondays at Guardian Games. We are Portland Paper. I am Ian Lunger, joined by our resident SCG champion.
Forever. Yeah, Vinny Balistreri. I'm back in the booth. I'm excited to be here.
Very excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited for what I think will be a very Drago matchup.
We are going to see Tyler Reeves on Jeskai Lotus and Calvin Bartlett playing 4-color Reclamation. So get dug in.
I think that it'll be interesting to see how much having your mana accelerant, right, like puts you ahead. And like how much further ahead do you need to be to feel comfortable to try and cast something like Teferi, right?
Right. This is not kind of your like standard like blue-white control versus either Reclamation or Lotus, where both of them are trying to go one over the top. Both of these decks are trying to do that kind of one over the top.
Yeah, we've got two cheaty
sort of
decks.
Situation.
Maybe Tyler has a slight advantage with Blood Moon though, or sorry, Blood Sun.
Yeah, I would expect Blood Sun would be solid against what Calvin's doing. But will Calvin let it resolve?
Yeah, also true. I think also, I mean, the Lotus Field deck, though, sometimes just plays its Lotus Field, right?
Right.
And it's just happy to do that.
Right. Tough to go for that unless you have a Flagstones. But if you do have a Flagstones, which it looks like Tyler has, that makes it a lot less painful to just run it out.
I think holding a handful of removal, though. I think I see a March and a Prismatic and a Solitude.
Those are all going to be pretty... Well, actually, March is good. March is good because we can target the Reclamation in this case.
That's
so
true.
While March sometimes is really bad in control mirrors, I actually think it has a very reasonable target in this one.
Oh, I guess with the extra white cards as well, reducing the cost of March to like allow Calvin to resolve the Reclamation, which like Calvin's going to feel great about, and then like marching it before the end step.
Right. I could see, you know, just like I don't think Solitude's going to be necessarily what this game's about. So I could see pitching something like Solitude.
I feel like too, like it might be a game of like who resolves Memory Deluge first, right? I think both these lists really, really want to resolve their Memory Deluge, and I think Tyler has one, but I can't tell if Calvin has one in hand. I wonder if there's anything super spicy. I feel like Reclamation decks can sometimes just like play the oddest card that you've never. I got White Sun Zenith last week.
No.
My Reclamation deck, and I was like, whoa.
Let's look up what.
For anyone born after
does.
2000, White Sun Zenith makes a lot of cat tokens. It also shuffles back into their deck, which prevents them from decking. Which wasn't going to be relevant in our matchup, but was relevant later in the night while I was watching one of their games. Oh, and there's the first Deluge. Tyler having to let it resolve. I think that puts Calvin ahead by quite a bit as long as he found a good hit.
Oh, you didn't fetch, so you played top. Yeah, played from sugar.
All right, I think this is the Reclamation turn for Calvin. Oh, there it is.
Instant speed, too, Vinny.
Instant speed. EOT, make, I don't even remember how many, like 8 cats.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty brutal. Calvin just finding full value and has a walker on board, which is exactly what you want to do in control matchups.
Yeah, Renin 6... okay, Prismatic ending, a good
Found a
answer
target for the
Renin
Prismatic
6.
ending, I guess, yeah.
Yep. March is really awkward. If you're stuck with just March, it's super awkward if your opponent has a Ren. But
the amount of times I've forgotten that March can't hit a Planeswalker, and I'm like, how am I going to get through this? And I'm like, oh, never mind, you just can't never remove it.
Right. Gross Spiral for Calvin. So unless we see a Spell Pierce here, likely ending going to resolve. Spell Pierce or Force of Negation. Possible answers.
Maybe punish. I don't know if Tyler has a third land, but maybe, or a fourth land, maybe punished by not playing that fourth land.
It is. Cast Remand.
Whoa.
Okay.
More throwbacks.
All right. Gonna go ahead and cast it again. Get that Ren out of there.
Yep. It's going to feel really bad is when Calvin untaps and plays another Ren and 6, which is what always happens when you remove someone's Ren and 6.
Yeah, you're never just holding up one.
And we're almost at flashback mana as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Calvin with a significant mana advantage due to the 2 growth spirals. You called it. And Ren is back.
I think we have a Misty in the yard that we've just been cycling. Gosh. That Planeswalker.
Seems good here.
It's real good. It's real good. And Tyler just like falling behind on mana, right? I mean, we talked about this at the beginning that like mana is a huge part of this matchup.
Yeah,
just Calvin being able to cast growth spirals like really puts you ahead. I mean, like any blue matchup, right? You want more mana than your opponent.
Right. This is just so awkward for Tyler. I believe there are 2 or maybe even 3 memory deluges in hand. I think it's maybe 3 memory deluge sitting in hand and no lands.
Calvin's deck is not 4-color Reclamation. It's just 4-color ramp.
Yeah.
We're just going to put in an extra land every other turn and like find something silly to do with all that mana.
Always kind of odd when you see 4-color at this point and it does not have white. Like when it has every color but white, given that the white removal has just been such a boon to Modern.
Yeah, as a format, yeah.
That is a Zeotora's Proving Grounds, which is the Jund Triome.
Do we think that... oh, and Calvin isn't playing white, so yeah, it's not even for Prismatic Ending, it's just for good cards.
Yeah, presumably.
Presumably, yeah.
What the black cards will be, I am very interested in.
I feel like there might be like some like... There's got to be some ridiculous... like a Nicol Bolas or something that you want to play?
I don't know. I mean, maybe you're playing the Black March. I don't know. I don't know what's like strong enough to.
Card that people I think are sleeping on is Black March because that card is gas.
It's solid, yeah, and it does shore up. I mean, some of the weaknesses of this deck at times, but I'm still skeptical as to whether it is. That's actually what Calvin's playing.
I like this play by Tyler. He's hoping that Calvin doesn't have a counter spell and is going for his own Memory Deluge. Also running it out here knowing you have 2 more in hand is like no problem at all.
No.
Like he will get to untap and Memory Deluge anyways.
Wait, did Calvin just say he's trying to find his planes? Okay, no, it's forest.
Forest.
Okay. Remand.
Remands again. Tempo play of the century.
Yeah, this is one of those matchups where Remand looks very good. There are a lot of matchups where Remand does not look very good, but we'll take it in this one.
We still have a Memory Deluge. There we go. Yeah. You want to know my tinfoil hat theory on Remand, on that specific art?
Yeah.
So I think that art is like a prequel to the Disdainful Stroke art. I think it's Disdainful Stroke, where there's a scroll that is being ripped in half.
Okay.
Maybe not.
We're gonna have to track this.
I'm reaching into the depths of my memory.
Uh-huh.
Possibly a promo, maybe? No, yeah, Disdainful Stroke from Guilds of Ravnica is the one you want.
I want to take a look.
Oh yeah,
at
let's
that
bring up Remand
art.
first, and we can take a look at that art. All right, so we've got probably an Izzet Mage, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Versus like a Golgari, someone. coming out of a sewer. Typical Golgari.
Okay.
Oh, it's Azorius. Sorry, Azorius. Okay, so you see the scroll.
Okay.
And then we go back to Guilds of Ravnica.
It's gonna. I know you're like setting the stage here. It's gonna take like a lot longer than you might think.
Also, interestingly, so that art for Remand wasn't the original art for Remand. It's the second art for the card. But did come out before Guilds of Ravnica, which is important because I'm dragging this out for as long as I can.
I have to figure out is this.
Oh yeah, that's the art.
Okay.
It looks like the same scroll, and he's cutting it in half, and he's like, "Get out of here!"
Okay, I could see it being the same scroll. It's definitely a different person.
Different mage. Yeah. There's no like helmet, like Azorius headpiece.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely it. Because like the Azorius whole thing is laws, right?
Right.
So like, yeah, for sure.
Also, Tyler flashing his hand of the other 3 memory deluges at the end of that game. I think Calvin pretty quickly pulled ahead on mana, and that was that. But I think sideboarding is much more interesting in the control matchup. Curious to see if Tyler keeps in Prismatic Ending or not. Or marches, like maybe there's like some number of those get cut.
I think the Solitude's got to go. I keep Prismatic Endings in because Renin 6 is just such a pain.
Yeah. Cutting Furies, which looks right.
Yeah. I definitely don't want Solitudes if I'm on Tyler's side.
Yeah, also shaving the Chalice of the Voids. Seems perfect, seems great.
So interesting. So Tyler's, just shaving Chalices and Furies.
I think Solitude is fine in that, like, you can flash it in. And, like, that can be good. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all, I guess maybe it's a question, too, of, like, how many cards are you bringing in, right? How many good cards do you have that you want to bring in?
Okay, so now we've grabbed
Shaving Marches, which I think is probably, I would probably shave Solitudes before Marches.
So it looks like we have some Heroes Downfalls, some Wear Tears, and some Force of Negations. That is definitely a Solitude, at least, that is going out.
Yeah.
Are we going to see more Solitudes come out?
I think Tyler being on the play here is a huge advantage with Blood Sun. I think the name of the game is like, the best opening hand that they can hope for is like Blood Sun, Force of Negation backup, and just like trying to like force Calvin to make the first move, and then resolving Blood Sun and just like disabling all of those extra fetch lands.
Yeah, it is tough to like make Calvin make the first move if your hand is kind of predicated. That's the thing about the Lotus Field deck is you can have hands that are sometimes very linear in your decision making. Like you may not have a flagstone, so you might be really incentivized to run out the Blood Sun to get a Lotus Field down, and you can't just sit there with a Lotus Field in hand, or get essentially no value out of it by running it out and blowing up your other 2 lands if there's no flagstones.
Yeah, that's true. What do we think? What do we think Calvin brought in? More counterspells?
I don't know. I'm still kind of wondering what all the colors are doing in Calvin's deck. So I think that would be the interesting thing. I do imagine that there are some number of cheap counterspells.
You think you keep in Remand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Remand's worth it. I think pretty much every spell that this Lotus Field deck is playing is expensive.
Sure.
So you're always kind of working at a mana advantage with Remand. So it looks like Tyler's got a 5 Fairy, a couple of Valakut Awakenings.
And kept in 1 Fury, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that seems okay. Like maybe there's a situation where you can hit 2 Planeswalkers and I guess bouncing. I guess Fury is probably more relevant than Solitude, right?
I think so. I mean, it's a great threat. Like running it out, dealing some damage to something that's in the way, whether it's an Ice Fang Quaddle, whether it's, a Renin 6 on 4, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, 3/3 double strike is no joke. Also pretty good swinging into an Ice Fang Quaddle.
True. Yeah, oh, yeah, the first strike, yeah.
Although we have not seen that card in Calvin's deck, so I'm making some assumptions here.
Yeah, I just land go. Welcome to a control mirror. I feel like the hard play here maybe is when, maybe also when to put your companion into your hand, like when to go shields down. Because I mean, I don't know this matchup, but like it seems like putting it into your hand now seems kind of okay, right? Like,
well, we
what do
do
you?
have Valakut Awakening in hand,
Oh,
which
so
is
you
a really
think-
big enabler for this deck.
Okay.
So I would I imagine that Tyler's holding up it for an end of turn Valakut Awakening to really kind of shore up the hand and try and hit Blood Sun plus, you know, Lotus Field.
Yep, you called it.
I imagine we're tossing Fury, a land, and looks like something else.
I think you just keep Teferi land, right? And then because you have to draw.
Yeah. There's the Blood Sun.
All right.
And the Lotus Field.
Oh, all right. Well, this Blood Sun has to resolve.
So I imagine Calvin knows. It looks like there is a Ream or a Snapcaster
No,
at least.
Snapcaster, yeah. I think. Well, and I guess Calvin probably would have run out of run in 6 if there was one in the hand.
We actually did not have the colors of. There's no red except for the Proving Grounds, which ETB tapped. So the fact that that resolves is probably kind of disastrous for Calvin.
Huge.
Calvin's mana engine is like 100% predicated on fetch lands. So
yeah.
That is.
It has hexproof.
It does not because of Blood Sun.
Oh,
yeah.
Blowout City.
Right. Yeah. So
you come here on Mondays for these kind of plays. This is insane.
Yeah. So this is heads up against Blood Sun in play. It's very easy to forget that Blood Sun does have a drawback when it comes to Lotus Field as well.
Drawback. Yeah.
Yeah.
The smallest drawback.
And Calvin can just run out untapped shock lands without taking any damage.
All right, mana acceleration.
Okay, so both players now have their ish online.
Okay, so I think here it's like, how does Tyler?
You have to big Teferi, but you got to resolve it. It's scary.
Well, yeah. He has 2 actually, so it's not even that bad if you don't resolve it. But I think what gets scary is what Calvin.
There's also a Wear Tear in hand, so you can Wear Tear, try and bait out the counterspell, and then try and run out the Teferi.
Or is it?
Or you can do the other.
I think do it the other way. I play the Teferi, let it get countered, and then try to Wear Tear the wreck.
But wouldn't you rather have the Teferi in play at the end of it all?
You have 2 Teferis though.
That is a good point.
I think because I think this line forces. Yeah, forces Calvin to have 2 counter spells. Yep, love it, love it. Remand resolves.
I think that yeah. We'll let it. I think that may have been a little bit more awkward of a play if you just started on the.
I think okay. I'm gonna double back on my own comment, but and knowing that Calvin plays remand and some quantity more than 1, like maybe you just like try to tear, let him remand, and then tear again.
Yeah.
That still forces him to have 2 counter. I guess he gets 2 counter spells on a card, but all right, double Blood Sun. Flagstones no longer triggers the proc when it dies, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so Tyler is not wanting to draw any more Flagstones at this point.
Ooh.
Okay, all right. So
can we bring that up? Sir?
Yes. Yeah, let's bring up Riveteer's Charm. But essentially, Calvin is impulsing for 3 cards at end of turn.
And he can play one of them?
He can play all 3.
Oh, all 3.
They last until the end of his current turn, and then they are gone forever.
Oh, and we put a Shark Typhoon in.
So let's take a look at the very modal Riveteer's Charm. Not to be outdone, Tyler showing that we have the Cryptic command.
Yeah, Tyler interestingly thinking about bouncing a land, which I like.
Yeah. I mean,
especially because Calvin's already made the play. He already played the Ancient or Overgrown 2.
One nice thing for Calvin is I believe the land does not ETB tapped under the Blood Sun, so it's not going to be as huge of a tempo play. But this is kind of looking like
a small thing though that like you have to remember that too, right? Like if I often get in my head undercards like Blood Sun and forget small interactions like that.
I think probably both players would be responsible for that, as it's like a game state violation, I believe, but.
We're just Blood Sunning all day.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, you know what it's like to make mana on your end step? I can do it too.
This feels a lot like last game, except the shoe is on the other foot.
Yeah, definitely change sides. Riveteer's Charm is probably one of the spicier cards that we want all those extra colors for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again.
Oh, I did not realize. I just brought this card up and did not realize that that's what it did.
Oh, yeah,
so
sack a Planeswalker.
Creature or Planeswalker they control at the highest mana value. Okay.
Oh, and we just Tails ended. Oh, I love it.
Tails ended the Ren and 6
Yeah.
cast. Yeah, fine with the Teferi dying, as Tyler has the backup Teferi in any case.
Yeah. Also, here's like the reason I guess to keep Solitude in, right? Well, that's also very good. But with Solitude in hand and being able to untap 2 Lotus Fields.
It does protect the Teferi. I mean, that is, a strong interaction in the deck. It's just how many targets is Solitude going to have? We have not seen any so far.
We saw a Shark Typhoon, which is a terrible target for Solitude. Like, a Shark Token is not what you want to be getting.
Right. So Kahira has now entered the battlefield. Tyler now has a available clock. Memory Deluge.
We've got Memory Deluge. We've got Solitude. We've got all the tools except maybe a counter spell.
And that, I imagine, is what we were looking for. So there is a Cryptic and a Force of Negation.
Oh, easy picks. Yep.
Both of those are coming in. And this probably spells the end for Calvin.
Well, so I think now the question, I guess the clock is there as well, right? Like, we'll definitely see a game 3. Yeah, I think if I'm Calvin, I'm conceding here to just save time and, like, try to.
I agree.
Try to go to game 3.
Yeah, I think you're just going to get the slow Kahira beat down. I mean, you can try maybe one spell just to test. It's possible Tyler's just missed on looks for counter spells.
Yep, there we go. Calvin sees it on the wall. Yeah. Both players also in a friendly way discussing their deck list while Tyler was making 10 mana or whatever. Whatever he was doing. All right. Yeah.
So Calvin's headed back to the well for sideboarding. See if there's any changes to be made. Looks like 3 cards have been pulled aside.
Possibly bringing back in Spell Pierce on the play, maybe? Something like that?
I think that's reasonable. I also think Pierce would have been reasonable on the draw, too.
Yeah. It feels like a card, though, that, like, if you don't have it, it's, like, the deadest draw after, like, turn 4, right?
Yes.
Because you've both resolved your mana acceleration, and, like, it's just going to feel terrible.
But both games have been decided by who resolved their mana acceleration kind of early in the game. Although, interestingly enough, Calvin never even really resolved a Reclamation game 1. It was just kind of the combination of Ren and 6 and Growth Spirals that got the advantage on board. It feels like Calvin's game plan should be centered around keeping Blood Sun from resolving.
Right. It has to just It has to be that and cast Growth Spirals, right? Like the fact that Growth Spirals instant speed, we can EOT it.
Right.
That's like such a huge advantage. Also, when Tyler was sideboarding before, thought, oh yeah, we don't want Furies in this matchup. But I think in the combination of seeing Ren and 6s, Snapcaster Mages, like there's enough targets that maybe like you do want more Furies than Solitudes.
I think they're reasonable. I think the deck is willing to take an incredibly bad trade and like pitch cast a Fury to get a Ren and 6 off the board if it resolves early and there's no prismatic ending in hand.
What colors?
I was playing like Vivian combo, 4-color elementals, Vivian combo.
The good news is we have enough time to hopefully get to the end of Game 3 in this control
That's right.
matchup. Also, not a lot of only one counterspell cast last game, right?
That one's a little better.
Yeah, I think just a remand. Maybe remand and a cryptic.
Remand Tails End.
Oh, Tails End too. That's right.
Cryptic.
Yeah, Tails End.
Yeah, but not as many small, small fry counterspells.
Right, yeah.
No spell snares, no spell pierces. Not a lot of super specific permission.
Yeah. And I feel like neither deck got to a point. Well, I mean Tyler did, but a point where like there was going to be some sort of interesting counter battle of like resources to try and fight through for something. But
Like that's a pretty good plan B right there. Like Unholy Heats, Legend Shredders, Ragged
Riveteer's Charm though I would say overperformed in my eyes.
Yeah, it seemed solid. I understand. Like I'm now seeing why Calvin has the card in the deck. It can do a lot of different things for this deck.
I see a remand in Calvin's hand. I think I see 3 Lotus Fields.
I think you're
Tyler's
right.
hand.
That is so. If you are keeping that is.
No, is there only one other land? And it's
I believe so. I think it's a Valakut Awakening. That is
So
really
greedy.
bold. If that's a
Yeah,
keep,
no,
okay.
no,
Yeah.
All right, agreed. Everyone in the booth agrees that's a mulligan.
Yeah. You just like, I don't even know how you get there with that.
Draw land.
But even then, like land, and you still don't have a Blood Sun.
True,
it's like,
yeah.
what do you? You're on the draw. What's Calvin doing over there?
Yeah.
Like things that are useful.
Yeah. Things that are useful while you're putting lands into play too.
Yeah.
You usually have one of them, you have 8 copies of that. It's just so good leaving the blood.
What's the last mode on Riveteer's Charm? After
Exile a graveyard.
Oh, interesting. Also relevant
Exile
in this matchup,
target
right?
player's
With
graveyard.
Memory Deluge.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat. I can't imagine that would be the mode that you would want in most instances.
You never know.
Because impulsing, getting to draw 3, essentially, it's really hard to pass up on that mode unless you're against a deck that is like only attacking from one angle.
You have the Nexus.
Yeah, that angle is control. Okay, many more lands. Still only expensive spells, though, which is a little rough.
That deck only plays expensive spells, so, you're going to see a lot of those.
But no, I mean,
you're
no,
see
like,
a lot
blood,
of
like I
those
feel better if that hand
clunkers.
had like a Blood Sun in it or like something to do.
Agreed, but I think you keep this one.
All right. Spell Pierce down. This is your moment.
And there's a Lotus Field, but I do not believe there's a Blood Sun in hand at the moment. So.
No. There is a Valakut Awakening.
Looks like
though.
Reclamation ripped off the top for Calvin.
Ooh. This is what Calvin wants to do.
Yeah, but no fetch land. So round
that's true.
6
No
uptick,
engine.
but no fetch land. So it's not the worst for Tyler at this point. It becomes bad. There's the fetch land.
Oh, never didn't have it. Don't tell me.
I mean, I guess if you have a 3-drop, maybe. Knowing you have, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
At this point, like Calvin has a remand in hand, and like we've got to find some way to resolve something here.
Yep.
I think you might just
Here's the awkward one you talk
play your Lotus Field, right? Like, yeah, you just like don't mess around. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but
Yeah, you're not really expecting to be able to resolve.
you do get access to Cryptic though next turn.
Yeah, it's
we're
just
doing
so
some things
clunky
next turn, at
against
least.
what Calvin's doing, and you're leaving things open against Reclamation. So
Yeah.
like you are just inviting Calvin to play the Reclamation, and Calvin, no fear of Force of Negation, just runs it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, so now it's like a question of like, when do you draw a wear tear? No, you didn't draw a wear tear. When do you attempt your cryptic command?
I mean, certainly not now.
Yeah, I mean, but also like letting Calvin draw a card.
I mean, you try and see if Calvin's trying to get greedy and fire something off here on end step, then maybe, oh boy, there's a Force of Negation for Calvin. I mean, Renin 6 will be at 7.
That's true, right? Yeah, Renin 6 is just doing all the work anyways, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So you're saying like if Calvin goes 4 mana something trigger, then you get bounce the Renin 6.
Or maybe I mean, you got to decide whether you're trying to do it against Renin 6 or Reclamation.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, they're both bad. A Renin 6 ult is probably unbeatable.
What is Calvin killing you with, though, with the Renin 6 ult?
Spells? I don't know.
A spell? Like, what?
Yeah, that's a good
question.
I
mean, I guess, like, he's going to get remanned forever.
Right.
Which is, like, pretty brutal.
It just feels most of these decks that like are playing Renin 6 that have a bunch of spells. Most of the time when I have managed a Renin 6 ult, especially if I'm ahead on lands, I find a way to win.
Yeah. Oh, we have another. Yeah. Oof.
Force of Negation.
All right, Renin 6 ult, remand forever.
Will Calvin get greedy is the question. Like, is Calvin going to get greedy
Calvin
here?
is an incredibly calculated player that I would not ever think would get too greedy.
Well,
you don't need to get greedy when you have another one.
No, that makes it easy. And
Tyler says enough is enough.
And Calvin takes it.
Yeah.
2-1.
I kind of played out exactly how we talked before the match, right? Like whoever hit mana acceleration first and like found their engine piece first was definitely going to win the game. So.
Yeah, it feels like Tyler would have needed a wear tear or a prismatic ending, something to get the run off the board early that game, and
even like we said, like a Fury there, right? Like something to pitch.
Yeah. Or Force of Negation. I mean, yeah, there were
a lot of answers. Yeah, it just like didn't line up right, which I feel like is a lot of Modern, right? Like sometimes things just don't line up right.
Especially with the Lotus Field deck, you are not playing cantrips. You know, you just like do not have the ability to find what you need until you get to Valakut Awakening mana, and that is a slow way to do it.
Yeah, you're not doing any sort of like EOT opt, EOT consider, start drawing cards, start filtering. Yeah, doesn't happen. Cool that we saw a Nexus of Fate resolved. It's been a while since that's happened on a stream.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, we'll take a quick look at our backup match. If we still have some Magic to bring you this round, we will. Otherwise, we will take a break until round 2. We'll, be right back.